Hey everybody, it's been a while, I know, but been very busy. However, I still have not forgotten my duties in terms of making sure I put out some comic book content. So, in case I get too busy later in the month, I want to put out my, just a good Christmas comic, Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns, a sequel to the Silent Night comic that I did last year. I want to make sure I put it on this year. And moving forward, I think coming next year, I want to start putting in some Marvel Christmas comics because I think I've been heavy with like the DC Christmas stories. So I want to start like putting in some effort with some Marvel comics because it got some fair bit of Christmas stories too. Uh, but anyway, like I said, this is a sequel to Silent Night Returns. This is written once again by Jeff Parker. So there's this mysterious haunted uh, medieval knight armor cursing people, turning them into shrivel up husks to power himself up. They call it the Silent Knight. So the Justice League catch wind of this to try to deal with this entity, but quickly are powerless to deal with it. It keeps each new victim. It gets more powerful, and of course, it's from like a mystical place. Makes it even more difficult for them to deal with. Uh, we see like uh, not a preview, but we see what happened in the past and how it led up because the comic begins with Damian visiting Zatanna and letting her know what transpired. He just barely made it out of the ordeal. Now, I want to point this out because it was starting to bug me. I'm not sure when this crap started. It was long before this comic came about because it came out last year, where the Justice League is started bringing in Nubia, this other Amazoness, who because people want like a black Wonder Woman, but they created this. I think Nubia was always a thing, but they kind of really pushed her. I would say forced her on us. Um, and then of course we got Mira, Aquaman's wife, who also has been around for a very long time, but with the Aquaman movies, but they kind of scaled her back because of the whole Amber Heard situation. But prior to that, they were really trying to push her to be part of the Justice League, and Arthur is just, I'm not sure what was going on with Arthur at the time. So they really was trying to push like these representation in our comics. Like they still kind of doing it now, but they was really gung ho in the past like handful of years. Uh, uh, but then also introducing like Wally West's daughter, uh, Thunderheart. This sounds like a Native American name. Uh, when they try to intercept this knight, they get caught up in this kind of mystical bubble. It was like, you know, uh, I think it was like close to the Himalayas. I think is where they ended up at. But uh, uh, Thunderheart couldn't get her and Damien out together because the Silent Night, making like corpses rise to, and all these monsters fight on his behalf. So she knew she wasn't gonna make it out, so she decides to like push Damien out of the bubble before it closes to get some help. So that's where he goes to track down Zatanna, because this is a mystical thing and she's like the best. And of course, normal people turn to Husk, but because a few of the Justice League members got branded by the sword that Silent Knight was using, they didn't turn to Husk. But if they keep using their powers, that not only charges him up, but it weakens them to the point they will turn into Husk. As per Batman's instructions, do not utilize your powers, or at least not, to its fullest extent, because you're only going to make this knight stronger. And I want to make a point about this. I don't much care for how Damien behaves in this, because it seems so out of character. What I say by that is, Damien, I don't know, as weird as it sounds, I got used of him to being a little asshole and a bit of a punk. Not like Jason Todd level, but it's just, an air of arrogance and punkishness to him that is kind of like that grit is just kind of like lost here. I don't know. I know it's a Christmas book, but come on. I don't know. It's like you try to make him like a little kid, but yeah, kid, but he's still Batman's and Talia's kid, mind you. So he's not like an ordinary kid. So you kind of like robbed that grit from him in this story. So yeah, they're making their way out, and she just managed to just before the barrier closes, pushes Damien out of it just to get some help, because she can't go any further. And since, as you remember from the previous Silent Night story, as Damien was telling this story to Zatanna, Santa Claus shows up using the Christmas trees as kind of like a beacon, or like live-in walkie-talkies, so he can always overhear what's going on, because that's why how he knows who's been naughty and who's been nice, because they don't think about telling their secrets out in the open in front of a Christmas tree where Santa Claus can hear. And I always love the depiction of Santa Claus in these stories, man, because it kind of reminds me of the Klaus stories that I did a few years back, which I highly recommend you check out my review on the Klaus comic books. I think it was done by Dynamite, I believe. Either Dynamite or IDW. I'm pretty sure it was Dynamite. So Santa Claus tells them it was kind of his fault what's going on with the Silent Night, because some of the creatures who happen to have those brands on them, that after the whole Krampus releasing all these creatures that Santa Claus locked up over many years ago, a few manages to slip through the cracks, and those few happen to have the brands of this knight on them, so they end up seeking out the armor pieces to assemble to bring them back to life, or alive, to life. So he takes it his responsibility to deal with this. While Zatanna's going through her books to find the symbol, so she'll know the origin story, so how to properly deal with this Silent Night. Santa Claus and Damien end up stopping some random crime happening in Gotham, because, as Damien puts it, words gets out fast when criminals realize Batman's not in town, so they try to take advantage. But then Santa Claus and Damien, which is kind of lame in a way, because I expect Santa Claus and Damon kind of kick some ass, but no, all he does is uh, jump on top of one of the criminals, but then use some kind of sleeping dust to knock the rest of them out so the authorities can properly arrest them. I expect some level of combat a bit here. Meanwhile, the Justice League inside the barrier dealing with all these creatures, but uh, they're easily getting overrun because they can't really go full throttle because most of the team are branded and they end up feeding the Knight more power. But eventually they do come across a castle owned by the Knight, obviously. And Zatanna realized, oh, this symbol is from like Arthurian legend, and she quickly deduced, okay, there's only one person alive now that can probably give us some insight, which turns out to be Jason Blood, aka Etrigan, the demon. So, yeah, while the Justice League's dealing with like these trolls and other monsters, uh, one of the trolls, who they assume was under the thrall of the Knight, actually isn't is totally look after long ago being beaten by him. They look at him like, oh, he's a leader. So they tell them how like the mystics back in the day separated he's not even like, he wasn't like a man at a certain point. So mystics of old separated the armor pieces and scattered it because they couldn't fully destroy it because this is pretty much fairy magic what they was dealing with, which is even the best of mages couldn't deduce how to overcome it. So the best thing they could do is scatter the pieces to neutralize this threat. And he tells them this story in order to distract them so their reinforcements can come and pretty much ambush them. So, with Zatanna gleefully disguising Santa Claus into Batman because, he can do it himself, she, got a little feather in her cap. The fact that she gets to magically disguise Santa Claus. Who could ever say that? So they end up going to this, this holiday party filled with a bunch of magic users, both from the good side, the neutral side, and the bad side. Because you'll see Felix Faust here as well, who's normally a bad guy, but is they typically hold gatherings that are typically neutral grounds, like holidays, like the winter solstice is like a sacred holiday, so it's kind of like no combat. Well, because one host per, they change the host per year, so one of them is kind of like a good guy, so luckily they can get in. So they enter in because since Zatanna automatically gets an invitation and she only gets to have 1+1. So the only way to circumvent that is to disguise Batman. Disguise Santa Claus into Batman because he can be the +1, and he will be allowed to bring a relative to and that would be like permitted. So they walk inside and to question Jason Blood, who tells them the story how like he was part of the he was familiar with the King Arthur and the Round Table. Him and this other the who will be the Silent Knight. Uh, what was his like actual name? I'm blanking on it. Uh, uh, Hawk of Camelot. No, Brian. Sir Brian, and they supposed to like by orders of Arthur of Camelot. Uh, Supposed to go to this area to help out in the to assist in like some crisis or something. But Merlin expressed to them like be wary on this particular area because there's dangers abound pretty much. Let me get the right context here. Stay away from the castle in the mist. It is the hollow kingdom left by fairy when they moved on. Few mortal minds can withstand the melancholy courtyard. Is not meant for you. Of course, some people like Brian didn't heed these words because they thought, like, "Oh, I'm, I'm so filled with like honor and I'm holier than thou." This air, let's say, a bit of arrogance, thinking that they're so good and honor bound they wouldn't be they wouldn't befall any kind of bewitchment. Of course, they do, and a lot of them die in various different ways or lost their minds. Brian probably gotten probably the closest, but still lost his mind once he got inside the castle, where he ends up finding this armor and became a essentially a plague on the lands of Camelot until Jason Blood had to take it upon himself to deal with him, which eventually lead to those mystics separating the armor. At that point, he wasn't a man anymore, so it wasn't like a big deal. But Jason blames himself because he felt like he abandoned his compatriot when he thought he was lost inside the castle. So Brian started this whole thing back then, turning innocent people into husks, despite Jason's trying to stop him. He couldn't on his own. And mind you, this is before he got bound with Etrigan the demon and became immortal. So we see Felix Faust. Of course, the Gentleman Ghost, who's also a bad guy. Uh, uh, who saw through the disguise and disrupted the spell and reveals it was Santa Claus, which everybody but Felix Faust looks upon Santa Claus as like super holy. It's like nobody disrespects Santa Claus. Everybody's like okay. It's kind of like looking upon the face of Jesus to them. Santa Claus is basically like, I won't say their Lord and Savior, but it's pretty much like holding very high regard in terms of mysticism and sanctity, and is just like hollow ground of a person. So complete respect. But of course, Felix Faust, who doesn't really care, but considering the kind of enchantment is kind of like of the dark variety in some cases, he is a little bit more familiar. So he's capable of summoning the armor so that they can properly dispose of it. But he is being a bit of a douche, so it's like, I don't care. I just going to sit back and eat some popcorn and watch this whole entire thing transpire. And I'm not gonna be fooled by Santa Claus, uh, like the rest of these people. Like I don't worship you, but Santa Claus is like, okay, I know everybody wants something. Like, I'm Santa Claus. I know what people like, people want. So he ends up summoning Krampus and Felix Faust, who, I gotta say, I don't really care for Felix Faust, how he's depicted here, because in most cases, Felix Faust seems like a. Sometimes he's depicted as elderly, like an elderly evil mage, but he's you know, here he's depicted like a goofball. Like they try to treat him like Loki a bit here. It's like, sure, I will buy the fact that he is a fanboy of somebody like Krampus, and you want to take a picture with him. Oh, let me take a picture of me in his sack of horrors and things of that sort. But I don't care how they make us seem like, not incompetent, but it's just like, it's kind of like with Damien. It's like, why you gotta give him this air of like, arrogant. Well, he's like a bit of like a arrogant teen here. I don't think he needed that, personally. If that makes sense. But he's agreed to do it because he got the chance to meet his idol, which is Krampus, which makes sense, given who Felix Faust is. So let's go up to the next slide. So upon agreement, they end up summoning the armor, but even with their magic, and the night has grown too powerful for them to properly contain. So they end up breaking out. Jason tries to deal with it because he feels like this is his problem, technically. But the Flash shows up, and because, well, Wally West the Flash, I don't really care for this costume he's been having in the past year so far. This black and red look, I don't know, something about it, I don't care for it. And despite him, because the Knight ended up summoning some ghouls, despite him taking down a significant amount of them, the Knight manages to brand him and turn him into a husk, because he exerted a lot of power given his super speed, so he quickly turned to a husk, along with Jason Blood when he tried to tackle the Knight. So Zatanna encased both of them in amber so they can preserve what spark they have left to hopefully revert whatever's been done to them. Uh, Meanwhile, uh, uh, the knight tries to escape, but Santa Claus latched onto them, and before they end up porting through the portal to where the Justice League will be by the castle, Santa Claus tells Damien to find uh, uh, his essentially his wife Ula, I don't want to say Ursula, but Ula, something like that. Um, and Damien's even feeling bad now because he thinks Wally West is dead again, and he doesn't know how to break the news to his daughter, who's back with the Justice League. And of course, like the host of the Magi Christmas party banishes Felix Faust for a decade, so he can't be permitted to come to any of these kind of parties until then. And so he just flips him off and say like worth it, and he is banished. I like the fact that he's still like a bad guy, so of course he still acts like a bit of a dick, but uh, but he doesn't need to come across as like a childish teenager either, because like it's similar to like you should be on the same tier of an attitude like Luthor or Reverse Flash. Sure, they can have their petty moments too, but ain't childish. Or at least it doesn't have to be depicted as like they're immature teens. But Gentleman Ghost shows up, kind of give them some bit of insight, considering he's a ghost and essentially the Silent Knight is a ghost. So he gives them like Zatanna a bit of an idea. Of course, he's not going to help, but he gives them some bit of an advice. So Zatanna ends up using this once in a lifetime spell that she probably, she thought now is the best time to use it, where she sends these magical pigeons to summon Mary Marvel, Robot Man from the Doom Patrol, and Metamorpho. And in the meantime, Etrigan the demon bursts out of the amber because knowing that Jason's brother's life is on the line, he summons himself to help out. But the other three were summoned mostly because, given their unique physiology, they wouldn't be affected by the branding of the Knight, so they won't be corrupted or their powers siphoned. But I don't know why those three in particular. I mean, well, let me put it this way. It shouldn't just be these three, because Mary Marvel is not too dissimilar to. She has the same powers as Captain Marvel and the rest of the Marvel family, so all of them should have been summoned. Because I get it, Metamorpho's powers is like all about the elements, so they can't really. The brand I can see won't be able to affect him similar ways. Robot Man, he's kind of just a living robot. His brain powder is inside like a this robot, so of course his soul like essentially can't be tainted like normally. But Mary Marvel isn't the. I get because she got the power of like Shazam, so she changed from a teenager into a full-blown adult with magic powers of Greek gods. But the entire family should be showing up. As a matter of fact, more than just these three, even definitely more than just the Marvel family. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other superheroes that's powers will easily be able to counteract the branding of the Silent Knight. Right off the top of my head, I was immediately thinking about the Metal Men. They got like these robots with different metal energies like platinum, tin, mercury, etc. they shouldn't be affected by the branding either. It's similar, kind of like Robot Man in a way. I don't know. I just kind of thought that was weird. Like, it's like, okay, you should. I get it's 3 pigeons, but still, you should have some of the, I don't know. It just seems like very limited. There's plenty of superheroes I can think of that probably wouldn't be affected by the branding. Uh, uh, Meanwhile, the Justice League managed to come across the castle, was pretty much like the hub of the Silent Knight, which is protected by a Leviathan in this big reflecting pool. Anyway, Etrigan and the others like decide to help out. Meanwhile, Damian summons via the Christmas tree Urla, which my issue with that personally is the fact that, hold on a second. She was not properly set up. She wasn't. I don't remember her being in the previous Silent Night story. She just kind of shows up and like, oh, this is Santa Claus's wife. She is a cool looking design and very much a badass, but she was not set up. She's just here. They briefly fight because she assumes they have something to do with her husband being missing, but Zatanna catches up on up to speed though. So, given the fact that this is her husband, she is easily able to track him down, which goes all the way to the Himalayas. So, she has like a cool design, and of course, she has a bit of a elven features. But man, I just wish that she was more properly set up. So she, via Santa Claus's blood, because he got stabbed a little bit by the knight. So she tracks down his, just off the bit of blood, she'd be able to, sniff him out like a bloodhound. Santa Claus shows up after the knight shows up and six the Leviathan on them, but they quickly see through the reflecting pool that the knight is getting a little bit more human by each soul he messes up. So he goes around all over the planet attacking people, draining them of their spirit essentially to revitalize himself and become more powerful. They realize that since this this is a kind of fairy magic of this castle, after they defeat the Leviathan, thanks to the backup showing up and Etrigan just mauling this thing from the inside out. I thought it was hilarious. Superman covering Thunderheart's eyes. Like, come on, I've seen stuff. But since they have a hard time getting inside the castle, Santa Claus, because this is Santa Claus, he can get inside any house. He summons a fruitcake, which is kind of like when you enter in someone's home, you have to bring a gift. It's common courtesy. So the door is open for them because there was like an offering, essentially. But they had to split up. Knowing Batman and knowing the kind of situation they're in, Zatanna suggested that Batman, along with Superman and Santa, Damian, and a couple other people go inside because it's always a puzzle. So we definitely need Batman for this kind of thing. The rest of us gonna stay out here so we can fight off the incoming hordes of monsters ready to defend the Silent Knight's home. So they split up, but unfortunately, uh, 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 Thunderheart sees that, well, they get hit with magical whammy where she come to realize, oh, my father, she thinks is dead, and blames Santa Claus and Damien for keeping it from her. But obviously, he's not really dead. Uh, Santa Claus then it's a nice little moment where Santa Claus gifts Robot Man an axe, even though he kind of meant a guitar axe, but he's completely satisfied with this too, so he can fend off the incoming hordes of monsters. Uh, but the people going inside, just like the knights of old, they end up getting hit with like some kind of magical illusion, trying to trip them up, and with sorrow and depression, and pretty much like deterring them on their mission. But they end up coming out of it once they realize this is clearly all fake. Meanwhile, outside, thanks to the hellfire of Etrigan burning off the marks, uh, all those monsters who were enthralled under the sway of the night come to their senses. So they kind of turn the tide of battle outside. Of course, Santa Claus apologized to the kid and was like, hey, I'm sorry for keeping this from you, because I was trying to make sure that, because I do not want to see a child sad on Christmas. So I thought I was protecting you. But we can still save Wally West. Once I get deeper inside, of course, like always, like Santana predicted, there's this puzzle. And there's this frog totem present everybody with this present, and ask, okay, pretty much like, what do you think is in this gift? Of course, the knight failed, or Brian failed at it, and that's why he, I guess, so it was like what he desires. So he ends up getting this armor that is obviously corrupted and corrupted his spirit and became like a plague on like the planet, or at least the land. But Batman deduced it's wherever you want it to be. This would make it like a perfect gift, something like that. So that was the right test. That was the proper way to answer that. As you can see, like the tide of battle is turning, the brands are being branded off, so we got more allies. Also, Rula ends up summoning some Yetis since they're in the Himalayas. And the Yetis were friends to the Clauses, so they end up as the heroes' backup as they're fending off, now at this point, the ghouls. Here's the thing. What is in this box? Batman's like, it's not a riddle. It's telling us how to stop the night. The night is empty armor following an ancient creed. Everything here is reactive, shaping to the visitor. The box is a gift. What's in the box is what we put in it. And I like this little smile from Santa. It's like he gets it, because it isn't about what you get. What you get for Christmas is like it's whatever you put into it. It's like it's the meaning behind the gift is what matters. That's what makes a gift special, because you put your thought into it, because you cared about the people you're giving the gift to. Okay, on the last slide. So they realize, okay, we got to get the knight back into the castle, uh, which I was confused on because, like, isn't this supposed to be his? I guess he's supposed to protect the castle, but he's not walking inside it because it's kind of shaped like his armor face. Um, but Batman deduced, okay, we got to get the knight inside the castle so the gift can be returned. And that's the only way to stop his rampage and return everybody back to normal. So, we see Ashley can go back to his normal human form, and Metamorpho shaped his himself out of this unique looking armor, so that way Ashley can't. Jason Blood, I'm sorry, can properly fight this this ancient warrior, his former comrade, and deal with him like a night to night. So they end up all the heroes corral up against him and like all trying to shove. Everybody's like shoving this dude inside, get inside, and they everybody push, and they just pushing all they might. And you know, this is Superman. He's magic. The knight is magic, so of course he can't do it by himself on this particular occasion. But everybody's just like all together, just shoving this dude inside. Finally, pushing him inside, and the contract is complete. The gift has been returned, so he's the spirit of Brian is gone, and then the armor is inert. Everybody who's been affected by the knight has been returned to normal, including Wally West, much to Thunderheart's delight. And everybody, like last time, well, I kind of like it better last time because it feels like everybody from the Justice League, from the A-listers to down to the D-listers, get to show up to celebrate Christmas at the North Pole, and time kind of stops so they can all have like a normal Christmas without to worry about crying. But here, only the people who showed up for this particular event get to spend Christmas at the workshop, where Batman and Superman give Santa Claus a Justice League ID card, so that way he's an honorable member of the Justice League. And that's where the book ends. I still enjoyed it, but I think I liked the first one a whole lot better. This wasn't bad, but it's just like, I don't know, it didn't rise to the same enjoyment I got from the first one. But that was Batman Santa Silent Night Returns. I don't think there's going to be a third one. However, next year I'm going to try to put in some Marvel Christmas stuff, comic books to review, because I've been putting I kind of wanted to get, I guess, the DC stuff out the way because they're like, they got the more memorable Christmas stuff. But I want to do some deep dive because I know Marvel got some cool Christmas related comics that I can review. But anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Have you read Batman Santa Silent Night Part 1 and Part 2? If you have, let me know in the comments below what you think of it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for more video games. So I gotta get back to Borderlands 4 because I still gotta get through some side quests. Because it's taking a bit of a long time, but given the fact that recent boss fights have been of a bit of a struggle, it's probably best that I grind a little bit. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Take care.